We have more moves coming for the Dallas Cowboys after the Micah Parsons trade, as a new report reveals a huge update on Jerry Jones' plan going forward with the newly acquired first-round picks from the Parsons trade. We get you the latest right here on Cowboys Digest. Welcome in, everybody. I'm Jace Andrews. I appreciate you tuning in to today's show. The dust continues to settle on the Micah Parsons trade, and now we wonder what is next. Well, we have maybe an inkling of what is next according to Jerry Jones. So make sure you hit that subscribe button because we're going to be talking about the moves today. And of course, if it does happen, we're going to have a video out ASAP for you here on YouTube. Let's first start with what Jerry Jones said yesterday, talking about the certain things that he plans on doing with these picks that he newly acquired. Now, we'll start from the top of this and kind of work down with this thread from Adam Schefter. Jerry Jones said this, saying, quote, "We did think it was in the best interest of the organization. We gained a Pro Bowl player in an area that we had concerns in." He also says that the facts are they needed to stop the run and that they haven't been able to stop the run for several years. Now, they follow it up by saying that these draft picks could get us top Pro Bowl players. Interestingly enough, he meant that in two different lights. The first one is that, well, the potential is there for us to go out and draft a Micah Parsons, which arguably is a very dumb thing to say when you're thinking, okay, yeah, we just traded Micah Parsons. We could go draft one, though, but you already had him. That's one. There's also the point of the matter that you could go out and move those picks literally right now and make it to where you are immediately going to, benefit from getting this Micah Parsons trade and hopefully get some more players. Which kind of goes into more detail here. Jerry Jones said that, quote, "There was no question in our mind that Micah could bring us a lot of resources on a trade," end quote. He also said that he'd been thinking about this particular part, that they could get a lot of resources since they had hired Coach Shoddy. So kind of interesting to say that the Cowboys may have had this, not intent, but a thought in the mind that maybe they were going to trade Micah for the past 6-7 months now at this point. In that case scenario, what are the next moves? Well, the Cowboys actually immediately made a move yesterday. Here was one that, of course, was very much kind of swiped under the rug for obvious reasons. Dallas, though, made a heralded move, or way less heralded move as Adam Schefter calls it. They claimed former Eagles guard Trevor Keegan off waivers. Keegan will now be with the Cowboys as they get ready to open the season Thursday night in Philadelphia against his former team. Now, of course, given they had to pick up somebody, they had to drop somebody. So they dropped Ryan Flournoy, a wide receiver who everybody liked, wanted him to be on the roster, and in some ways was part of the reason that Trayshawn Holden didn't make the roster. And Blogging with the Boys, I think, had some interesting points, and I want to go talk about it real quick. Brandon Laurie of Blogging with the Boys says, quote, "The move is a bit surprising, considering the Cowboys had 10 offensive linemen already on the roster after bringing back Hakeem Adeniji on Wednesday. Keegan was a 5th-round pick from the Eagles in 2024, so Dallas is getting a younger offensive lineman to develop for the next few seasons. On the flip side, releasing Flournoy is also confusing, considering his absence leaves just CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Kevontae Turpin, and Jalen Tolbert as the only 4 receivers on the active roster. They have Jalen Brooks, Jalen Cropper, and Trayshawn Holden on the practice squad, so they could always elevate someone to fill that need," end quote. However, I don't make sense of this move in any light. The offensive line was in a very good spot. There was no need to claim an extra guy when, like I said, they already had a pretty good area right there. But at the same time, it doesn't make sense in the opposite of why in the world would they go out and drop Ryan Flournoy when you only have now 4 receivers on your active roster, when we've heard Coach Schottenheimer this is going to be a very fluid offense and throwing the ball is going to be a key piece. But either way, it's one move made, but obviously that's not what you're here for. You're looking for what is next for the Cowboys in the grand scheme of things. Well, Jerry Jones said this yesterday during his press conference, saying, quote, "Not only do we immediately get a player, but those draft picks could get us Pro Bowl type players. Now, you won't necessarily get those players. You got to draft them or acquire, but they could get us as few as 3 or as many as 5 outstanding players." And to kind of even go further on this, he said that they could be ending up using the 2026 and 2027 first-round picks that they acquired from the Packers as soon as this year. They could trade those picks this season to get top-end talent. Now, he compared this, and something we've been talking about on this channel for the past day or now, is that this is being very much compared to the Herschel Walker trade, and the picks that they got from that trade, the assets they got, they ended up moving them in various of the moves that acquired Emmitt Smith and Darren Woodson, which of course we know that was the backbone of the dynasty teams in the 1990s. So there is a point of contention to say that maybe these picks are going to be useful to make the Cowboys a better team as a whole in the upcoming, few years. And that Micah Parsons was not going to be Micah Parsons was not going to make this team good. He alone was not. Whereas these picks and the assets they could get with trading these could make this team an elite level team for years to come. The problem I have, he talks about going out and getting elite level talent, right? That's what he's saying. So I did kind of some research and I was like, okay, who exactly, is going to be available to go out and get? Because as we know from Jerry Jones, he continues on with his trade point saying, quote, now, not only do they contribute in a game that needs a lot of players in the field, not to be Atlanta, but they also give you a better odds of what they're going to be. Now, available from the standpoint of attributing or the standpoint of just sheer limit on how far one player can go. Basically saying, listen, Micah Parsons is one person. We can go out and get multiple people. So who was on the trading block? Here are some people ESPN listed ahead of the first regular season game that could be out on the trading block given their positionments position in the depth chart, probably the best way to say that. Quentin Johnson, a guy who was drafted out of TCU just 2 years ago. I don't consider him a top-level talent or worth a first-round pick at this point. Offensive tackle Braxton Jones. Offensive tackle is not a point of contention for the Cowboys. Same thing can be said for Evan Neal. Anthony Richardson. I'd rather not trade for him. You have Dak on a ginormous contract. If you're thinking about QB, I have a better option that I'll tell you in just a second. Now, the defensive tackle, Mozzie Smith. Oh, wait, the Cowboys have him. That's right. No trade for him. Adam Thielen, this was before the Adam Thielen trade this article was put out, so obviously he was already moved to the Vikings. Or another quarterback in Mike White, which obviously I don't need to tell you much. We're not getting Mike White. That would be dumb. Now, I went back a little further because it was kind of hard to see who was on the trading block. Because originally it was Terry McLaurin. It was Micah Parsons who ended up getting traded, and it was Trey Hendrickson. Funny enough, of the three guys who had little, let's say, upsetness on their current situations, the only person who got traded was Micah out of the three, McLaurin, Hendrickson, and Parsons, obviously. So I had to kind of go back, see, okay, what exactly was on the trading block? And so you go back all the way to a Bleacher Report article that had the latest NFL trade block, big board, following mandatory minicamp. Now, I know this was about a month, 2 months ago. However, some of the trades that they talked about have already been executed, but there were players on here mentioned that have not been traded / maybe could be in the upcoming days / months, even into the end of the year. And one of those names that I thought would be actually an interesting one is Kayvon Thibodeaux, a guy out of Oregon, just 24 years old. He'll be 25 sometime in this season. He is not the same as Micah Parsons by any stretch of the imagination. Last year, only appeared in 12 games, had 5.5 sacks. He has not been the typical force that he was in his first couple seasons in New York. And again, trading for someone inside your division is probably less than likely. However, he does fit the need for the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think it would take maybe more than a second-round pick, so you're keeping your first-round picks. If you pair a play with it, you could also just pop one of those first-round picks and give him, but again, I don't think it's worth it to trade a first-round pick in this light, so you go back again to Jerry's point. We could use these first-round picks to trade for top-end talent. Thibodeaux would be a great trade, not saying that he is, bad in any mind. I don't think you need to spend a first-round pick on Kayvon Thibodeaux, especially with the production that he has been putting on for now the past couple seasons. Now we continue on, and what about a position that the Cowboys like, but for guys that, maybe could help out this team right away? Names were brought up, like Travis Etienne. He was on this board on the Bleacher Report trade market. So obviously Etienne would be an interesting one, but I don't really think the Cowboys have any interest in trading for a running back right now, right? That's not exactly the motion, and that's kind of where I go, same point. We've talked about Najee Harris, and, this obviously, before his firework incident, was supposed to be a potential top running back for the Chargers. Obviously, I know they have Amari and Hampton, but at the same time, that's why they could trade Najee Harris when he's on a one-year contract. Well, again, he is a running back. I don't think it is worth it for the Dallas Cowboys to go out and move, and, either way, it doesn't really make sense. So, in terms of guys that would warrant a first-round pick, I don't see much on the trading block. So in that aspect, what is the move for the Dallas Cowboys? Should they keep these guys? What exactly is the positive in all this? Well, I kind of chose this time to kind of go and obviously not exactly the trade I wanted to see, but what are the positives in all this? And this is what I came up with. You can now pay George Pickens next season. Obviously, we know Jerry Jones is not exactly the easiest to work with when paying somebody, and now he's going to have George Pickens next season, which we'll see what happens with that. They also have 4 first-round picks over the next 2 years, which, again, we just talked about. There's not really anybody right now on the trade block that I'm like, oh, yeah, that's worth a first-round pick. So if you use those, what exactly are you doing? Well, first of all, this year's draft class, I think, does not compare to the next 2 draft classes, including one, maybe not this year, because according to his grandfather and maybe his two uncles who were in the NFL, but he might be gone in the next year or two. Someone already in the state, somebody by the name of Manning, Arch Manning. Now, again, am I going to sit here and say the Dallas Cowboys are now going to go from having Micah Parsons to absolutely tanking with CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Dak Prescott, and still a very good defense in my opinion? No, I'm not going to say that this year, but if the season does not go as planned this year, which by all accounts Arch Manning is not going to be going into the draft this season, then what about next year? If you win 7 games this season like last year, if the obvious crutch of this team is the defensive line once again, and you all of a sudden can't get to the quarterback and can't stop the run if, let's say, the newly acquired interior defensive lineman doesn't exactly work in Ken Clark, then what is the move for the season after? I personally think it's reset. Now, Jerry Jones will sit here and he'll tell you, we're not here to restart. We're not here on a rebuild. But if this season goes horrendously, which it could easily do so very quickly, then in that manner, I am going to be looking more towards the season after. And if Arch does not go in this draft, I am saying, that's it, we're getting Arch. Because, and this even makes sense for Jerry Jones, we know that he wants money. He wants to print the dollar bills. And being an owner and a GM, he doesn't have to worry about certain, things that could happen to him. Get fired, that's not happening. But at the same time, I think for this instance, it would be smart because he's going to get more money by drafting Arch Manning and having him in his roster. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Kayvon Thibodeaux, is he a guy you'd like to see? Let me know. Obviously, is Arch Manning the end goal? I'm curious for your 2 cents, but that is all we got for you here today on Cowboys Digest. We really do appreciate you watching and making it to the end of the video. You, my friend, are a real one. We'll see you next time here on Cowboys Digest, everybody. Peace out.